The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. Humanity had spread across the solar system, but never encountered intelligent alien life until now. The vessel was enormous, nearly 5 kilometers long, with a gleaming silver hull that reflected Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. Global news networks broadcast the same footage on repeat. People gathered in streets, parks, and rooftops, eyes turned skyward. Some celebrated, some prayed. Most simply watched in stunned silence. 3 days after its arrival, the ship transmitted a message in perfect English. "Greetings, people of Earth. We represent the Galactic Council, a confederation of spacefaring civilizations. We wish to discuss your potential membership." Earth's government scrambled to form a response team. They needed someone exceptional to represent humanity in this historic moment. Dr. Kim Ji-won sat in her office at the International Space Agency when she received the call. At 43, she had become Earth's foremost expert in theoretical xenolinguistics and diplomatic protocol. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray, the result of 15 years leading humanity's preparation for this exact scenario. "Director Kim, the Security Council has selected you to lead our delegation," said the Secretary General's voice through her computer. "You have 48 hours to assemble your team." Ji-won closed her eyes briefly. She had trained her entire adult life for this moment, but reality felt heavier than any simulation. "I accept," she said simply. That evening, Ji-won returned to her apartment to find her 12-year-old daughter, Ha-Yun, surrounded by holographic displays showing the alien vessel from various angles. "Mom, is it true? Are you going to meet them?" Ha-Yun's eyes sparkled with excitement. Unlike her mother's diplomatic reserve, Ha-Yun expressed emotions freely. "Yes, I leave in 2 days." Ha-Yun jumped up. "I've been reading everything about the ship. Its design suggests an advanced understanding of quantum field manipulation. And look," she pointed to a section of the hull, "these patterns might be related to their writing system." Ji-won smiled despite her exhaustion. Ha-Yun had inherited her intelligence, but applied it to mathematics and physics rather than linguistics. At 12, she was already taking university-level courses. "Mrs. Park will stay with you while I'm gone," Ji-won said, referring to their elderly neighbor who often watched Ha-Yun. Ha-Yun's face fell. "How long will you be gone?" "At least 3 weeks, maybe longer." The next morning, Mrs. Park called. She had fallen during the night and broken her hip. She was in the hospital and would need weeks of recovery. Ji-won tried calling her mother in Busan, but at 76 with arthritis, she couldn't travel to Seoul on such short notice. Ji-won contacted every friend and colleague she could think of, but with the global excitement about the aliens, everyone was either too busy or traveling to witness history. That night, as Ji-won packed her diplomatic uniforms, Ha-Yun appeared. In her doorway, "Take me with you," she said quietly. "Absolutely not, it's too dangerous. More dangerous than leaving me alone. Besides, I can help. I've already analyzed their communication patterns. There are mathematical structures embedded in them that nobody else has noticed." Ji-won paused. "What do you mean?" Ha-Yun brought out her tablet and showed a series of equations. "Their message contains prime number sequences as carrier waves. It's like they embedded a universal mathematical language beneath the English." Ji-won studied the equations with growing amazement. None of the experts had mentioned this. The next morning, Ji-won called Ambassador Park Min-jae, her second-in-command for the mission. "I need to bring my daughter," she explained. "She's discovered something about their communications that might be valuable." "A child on a first-contact mission?" Min-jae sounded doubtful. "She's not an ordinary child," Ji-won responded, "and I have no alternatives for her care." After a long silence, Min-jae agreed to present the case to the selection committee. 2 days later, Ji-won and Ha-Yun stood with 10 other delegates at the launch pad. Their shuttle would take them to the International Space Station, where the council representatives had agreed to meet them. Ha-Yun squeezed her mother's hand as they walked toward the shuttle. "Do you think they'll like us?" she whispered. Ji-won looked down at her daughter, suddenly struck by how small she appeared next to the massive rocket. "I hope so," she replied honestly. "But no matter what happens, stay close to me." As their shuttle cleared Earth's atmosphere, Ha-Un pressed her face against the viewport. The alien ship grew larger in the distance, its surface catching the sunlight like a massive jewel. "It's beautiful," Ha-Un whispered. Ji-won watched her daughter's reflection in the glass. "Let's hope they are too." Remember to stay concise and avoid lists, using natural language instead of bullet points. Keep the narrative engaging while using simple, basic English for this HFY Sci-Fi Story part. Write in third-person style without headings as requested, and maintain an interesting narrative flow about the Council politics in around 800 words. The Council's orbital station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It hung in space like a massive silver snowflake, each branch housing representatives from different worlds. Ji-won and Ha-un followed their alien guide, a tall blue-skinned being named Bomb, through endless corridors that curved in strange ways. "The Grand Chamber is ahead," Bomb explained, his translator device giving his words a musical quality. "The full council rarely meets, but your arrival is special." Ha-un stared wide-eyed at everything, the walls that changed color as they walked, the gravity that subtly shifted between sections, and especially the diverse aliens they passed. Some had too many limbs, others had none at all. Some floated in bubbles of liquid, while others wore mechanical suits that hissed and clicked. The Grand Chamber itself was a vast dome with 27 raised platforms arranged in a circle. Each platform held representatives from a different species. Humans had been given temporary quarters, but no platform yet. "We observe first," Ji-won whispered to Ha-un as they took their seats in the visitor section. "Learn who holds power before we speak." For 3 days they attended formal meetings where council members discussed trade routes, border disputes, and technology regulations. Ji-won noticed that despite the appearance of equality, some species clearly held more influence. The oldest members, particularly the archivists with their crystalline bodies and the machine-like directive faction, seemed to guide most decisions. On the 4th day, while Ji-won attended private negotiations, Ha-un was permitted to visit the council's mathematical archives under supervision. There she met Taeho, a young alien whose dark purple skin was covered in tiny, shimmering scales. "You are the human child," Taeho said, approaching her workstation. "I am a junior xenobiologist. May I observe your research methods?" Ha-un nodded, surprised by his interest. "I'm studying how different species approach mathematical problems." Taeho watched as Ha-un worked through complex equations. "Fascinating," he said after a while. "Your approach is unlike any I've studied. You make intuitive leaps where others follow established patterns. Is that good?" Ha-un asked. Taeho's translator hesitated before responding. "It is unusual. Your species seems to combine logical reasoning with creative thinking in ways mine cannot." Meanwhile, in a private chamber, Ji-won faced difficult questions from the council's inner circle. "Your technological advancement rate is concerning," said the directive representative. "A being encased in a mechanical exoskeleton. Humans moved from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century. We are curious by nature," Ji-won replied carefully. "We seek knowledge. Yet your history shows this curiosity is often paired with violence," observed the archivist, its crystal body pulsing with light. "You fought wars over resources, ideology, even slight differences in appearance." Ambassador Lee Do-yun, the military advisor on Ji-won's team, leaned forward. "With respect, we've learned from our past. Earth hasn't seen global conflict in over 50 years. A mere moment in cosmic time," the directive representative countered. That evening, Ji-won and her team gathered in their quarters to share observations. "They're stalling the membership process," Do-hyun said, keeping his voice low despite assurances. Their rooms weren't monitored. "The technical committees keep requesting the same information in different formats. And they're particularly interested in our military capacity," added Park Min-jae. "Their questions seem designed to assess our threat level, not our compatibility." The door slid open, and Ha-un rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, I found something important." Ji-won quickly introduced her daughter to the team, and Ha-un pulled up a display on her tablet. I was looking through public mathematical archives, and I found these models, she explained, showing complex simulations. They're running projections on human population growth and technological development. Look at the timelines. The team, gathered around the small screen. The models predicted that humans would match or exceed 3 of the Council's oldest members in technological capability within a single century. These aren't just speculations, Ha-Un continued. They're using these models to make policy recommendations. See these tags? They link to restricted files I couldn't access. Ji-won felt a chill run through her. How did you find this? Tae-ho helped me navigate the archive system. He seemed surprised that I could understand these models at all. Do-yun's expression darkened. Director Kim, this confirms my suspicions. Some council factions see us as a future threat, not as potential allies. We need to be careful, Ji-won said, looking at her daughter with new concern. Ha-un, from now on, stay close to our delegation. Don't go anywhere alone, even with Tae-ho. But he's my friend, Ha-un protested. Perhaps, Ji-won said gently, but we're in a delicate position here. Not everyone may want us to succeed. That night, as Ha-un slept, Ji-won stared out their viewport at the vast starfield beyond. She had come seeking peaceful cooperation, but now she wondered if they had walked into something far more dangerous, a test they didn't know they were taking, with consequences they couldn't begin to imagine. The next morning, the Earth delegation prepared for what the Council called a cultural exchange ceremony. Ji-won helped Ha-un into her formal blue dress, specially made for the occasion. Remember what we discussed, Ji-won said as she brushed her daughter's long black hair. Stay with the group. Don't wander off, no matter how interesting something seems. Ha-un nodded seriously. I'll be careful, Mum. The ceremony was held in a vast chamber with transparent walls that revealed the stars beyond. Representatives from all 27 council species gathered in their finest attire. Some wore elaborate mechanical suits adorned with glowing symbols. Others draped themselves in living organisms that changed colors with their moods. The humans, in their simple formal wear, looked plain by comparison. Ambassador Park Min-jae leaned toward Ji-won. The directive faction representatives keep watching us. Something feels wrong. Ji-won had noticed it too, the way certain council members clustered together, speaking in low tones while glancing in their direction. She placed a protective hand on Ha-un's shoulder. The ceremony began with music, if it could be called that. Strange harmonies filled the air, created by instruments unlike any on Earth. Ha-un's eyes widened as patterns of light danced above the gathered delegates, synchronized with the alien sounds. Then the council leader, a tall being with silvery skin, approached the human delegation. We welcome our friends from Earth to share in our traditions, it announced, its translator making the words sound almost lyrical. Just as Ji-won stepped forward to respond, a commotion broke out at the chamber's entrance. 6 members of the Directive Faction Security Force entered, their exoskeletons humming with energy. Director Kim Ji-won, their leader announced, voice harsh through the translator. Your presence is required for an urgent security matter. Do-hyun moved protectively in front of Ji-won. What is the meaning of this? We are guests at a formal ceremony. A data breach has been detected. Earth delegate involvement is suspected, the security leader stated. This is a routine investigation. Ji-won turned to Min-jae. Stay with the delegation and keep Ha-un safe. She squeezed her daughter's hand before stepping forward. I'll cooperate fully. There must be a misunderstanding. As the security team surrounded Ji-won, chaos erupted. Other council members began arguing loudly, some protesting the interruption of the ceremony, others demanding to know details of the alleged breach. In the confusion, Ha-un found herself separated from the Earth delegation. People and aliens moved in all directions, and suddenly her mother was gone from view. Mom, she called, but her voice was lost in the noise. Ha-un pushed through the crowd, trying to follow the security team that had taken her mother. She slipped, past arguing council members, until she reached a less crowded corridor. Looking around, she realized she was in an unfamiliar section of the station. You shouldn't be here alone, a familiar voice said. Ha-un turned to see Tae-ho approaching. They took my mum, Ha-Un explained, fighting back tears. Something about a data breach. Taeho's scales darkened with concern. This is serious. The Directive faction has been pushing for restrictions on your species. They may be using this as an excuse. We need to find her, Ha-Un insisted. Taeho hesitated, then nodded. I know a faster way to the security section. Follow me. They hurried through service corridors, avoiding the main pathways where they might be spotted. Taeho explained as they moved. The archivists and the Directive faction fear your species, he said quietly. The mathematical models you found. They've convinced some council members that humans will eventually dominate if allowed to join as equals. That's not what we want, Ha-Un protested. I know, but fear is a powerful force in council politics. They reached a transport hub where several corridors intersected. Taeho suddenly froze, his scales flashing a warning pattern. Directive security, he whispered, pulling Ha-Un behind a support column. Too late. A voice called out, Halt! Identify yourselves! 3 security officers approached, their exoskeletons humming with energy. Ha-Un recognized the insignia of the hardline faction that had taken her mother. Run, Taeho whispered, pushing Ha-Un toward an open corridor. I'll distract them. Ha-Un hesitated, but Taeho was already moving toward the officers, his scales brightening in a formal greeting pattern. Officers, I am Taeho of the Research Division, he began. Ha-Un turned and ran. Behind her she heard Taeho's voice rise in protest, followed by a sound like electrical discharge. She risked a glance back and saw him falling to the floor, his scales darkening in pain. Ha-Un ran faster, heart pounding. She turned a corner and found herself in a dead-end corridor. Footsteps approached rapidly from behind. The human child, a mechanical voice announced, contain the security breach. Ha-Un turned to face them, backing against the wall. 3 officers advanced, their face shields revealing nothing of the beings inside. I didn't do anything wrong, she said, her voice shaking. I just want to find my mother. You accessed restricted files, the lead officer stated. Your actions threaten council security. They were public archives, Ha-Un protested. The officer raised a device. You will come with us for questioning. Ha-Un saw Taeho stagger into the corridor behind the officers, scales flashing in what seemed like a warning. He called out something her translator couldn't process. The lead officer turned. In that moment of distraction, Ha-Un tried to dart past them. What happened next would later be recorded in official council documents as an unfortunate security incident involving unauthorized movement during a lockdown protocol. What really happened was much simpler. They killed her. The news reached Earth 48 hours later. Ambassador Lee Do-hyun delivered it himself, his face ashen as he stood before the emergency session of the United Earth Council. Director Kim's daughter Ha-Un is dead, he said, his voice breaking despite his military training. The Galactic Council claims it was an accident during a security incident. The chamber fell silent. On screens worldwide, people watched as their leaders absorbed the information. A child. The first human casualty in space, not from natural causes or exploration accidents, but at the hands of aliens who had invited them as guests. And Director Kim? Asked the Secretary General, her knuckles white as she gripped the podium. Detained. For questioning regarding alleged data breaches. They refuse our request to see her or return Ha-Un's body. Within hours, Earth's orbital defense platforms activated, moving into new positions. Military vessels throughout the solar system began returning to Earth. It wasn't a coordinated response, not yet, but the instinct to prepare was universal. 3. Days later, the Galactic Council sent their official explanation. Ha-Un had accessed restricted military files. When security attempted to detain her for questioning, she fled and entered a restricted area. In the confusion, a security officer's weapon discharged. The Council expressed deep regret for this unfortunate incident and offered technology transfers and mining rights to 10 uninhabited star systems as compensation. The message concluded, "We hope this regrettable incident will not interfere with Earth's path to Council membership." In reply, Earth sent silence. For 3 days, no transmission was sent to the Council ship still orbiting Earth. No reply to their increasingly concerned messages. Instead, Earth turned inward, grieving and planning. In secret facilities around the world, scientists and military leaders gathered. They revealed something that had been hidden from the public. Since first contact, Earth had been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology they could access. "We've suspected this might happen," explained Dr. John Hyok, lead scientist of Project Watchdog. "Not this exact scenario, but some form of hostile action. The technological gap between us and them made conflict inevitable. We've been preparing." The Secretary General looked at the prototype ships hidden in underground hangars. They looked like council vessels, but incorporated human innovations the aliens had never seen. "How effective are they?" she asked. "We won't know until we try," Dr. Jun admitted. "But we've identified weaknesses in their communication systems, their navigation protocols, even their weapons. They've been careless because they think we're primitive." On the 7th day after Hayun's death, Jiwon escaped her detention cell with help from Taiho and other council members who opposed the hardline factions. Her face was bruised, her body thin from minimal food, but her eyes burned with cold. Determination. "They've been planning this for months," she told Taiho as they hid in a maintenance section of the station. "The data breach was an excuse. They've already decided humans are too unpredictable to join as equals. They want to control our development, limit our expansion." "Many of us disagree," Taiho said, his scales dim with shame. "What happened to your daughter has caused a split in the council. Some believe we've betrayed our founding principles." "It's too late for that," Jiwon said, her voice empty of emotion. "Earth will respond." Taiho's translator hesitated before conveying his next words. "What will your people do?" Jiwon looked at him with eyes that seemed to see through time and space. "What we've always done when threatened. Survive. By any means necessary." Back on Earth, the United Earth Council voted unanimously to activate Protocol Omega, a contingency plan developed after first contact that had seemed paranoid until now. Military forces worldwide were placed under a single command structure for the first time in human history. Research facilities worked around the clock, finalizing technologies that had been theoretical just days before. 10 days after Ha-Un's death, Earth broke its silence. A single message was transmitted to the council ship in orbit and to the main council station where Jiwon was hiding. The message was sent in all 27 council languages. Die. Within hours, the council ship in Earth orbit reported multiple system failures. Its weapons went offline first, then life support began to fluctuate. The crew, panicking, requested permission to leave orbit. By then it was too late. Earth's orbital platforms had locked onto the vessel. Across council space, alarms spread as communication hubs suddenly went dark. Security systems reported phantom, ships that appeared and disappeared from sensors. Critical infrastructure began failing with no explanation. The council's inner circle gathered in emergency session, their usual political divisions forgotten in the face of a threat they hadn't believed possible. "How are they doing this?" demanded the directive faction leader. "They're centuries behind our technology." The archivist representative's crystalline body pulsed with agitated light. "We may have miscalculated. Their approach to problems is fundamentally different from ours. We saw it in the child's mathematics, but failed to understand its implications." On a secure channel, Jiwon received a message from Earth. "We are coming. Be ready." The first human warships appeared in council space 3 days after Earth's message. They seemed to materialize from nowhere, using stealth technology that council sensors couldn't detect until the ships were already in position. The vessels were smaller than council warships, but moved with surprising speed and precision. In the council's emergency command center, leaders from all 27 species gathered around display screens, showing the human ships surrounding key military installations. "How did they build these so quickly?" asked the archivist representative, its crystal body pulsing with agitated light. "They didn't," replied the intelligence director, a being of living smoke contained in a transparent suit. "They've been building them since first contact. Our observers missed it." The directive faction leader slammed a mechanical appendage against the table. "Launch our defense fleets. We outnumber them 100 to 1. "Our main communication network is compromised," the intelligence director reported. Fleet commanders can't coordinate their movements, and our weapons targeting systems are failing across all sectors. Alarms blared as the first human strike hit the Directive Faction's military headquarters. The attack was surgical. Only weapon systems and shield generators were damaged, with minimal casualties. It was a demonstration, not a massacre. Earth's message played on repeat across all Council communication channels. "We did not want war. You killed our child. Now you will listen." On the Council station, G1 moved through maintenance corridors. With Taiho and a growing number of allies from various species, news of Ha-Un's death and the circumstances surrounding it had spread, causing many to question the Council leadership. "The command center is 2 levels up," Taiho said, his scales flickering with nervous energy. "Security will be heavy." "We'll have help," Ji-won replied, checking a small device she'd been given by Earth operatives who had infiltrated the station. "My people are very close now." The device blinked 3 times. Seconds later, the station's lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. Security doors slid open as their electronic locks failed. "Now," Ji-won said, leading her group forward. They encountered little resistance. Most security forces were responding to multiple false alarms triggered throughout the station. When they reached the command center, the doors stood open, the guards missing. Inside, Council leaders argued frantically as systems failed around them. They fell silent when Ji-won entered. "Director Kim," the Council leader said, silver skin dulled with stress, "we did not expect to see you here." "Clearly you've underestimated humans in many ways," Ji-won replied, her voice cold. "That ends today." She connected her device to the main communication console. The screens around the room changed to show a single image, Ha-Un's face, smiling, in her school photo from just months earlier. "My daughter discovered your plans to restrict human development," Ji-won said. "She was killed to protect those plans, but she was smarter than you realized. The mathematical principles she was exploring, the ones that seemed so strange to your experts, became the foundation for technologies you never anticipated." On screens across Council space, humans appeared, broadcasting a single message. "We could destroy you, but we choose not to. Today, the Council as you know it ends. The human fleet disabled the Directive Faction's remaining military bases with precise strikes. Key leaders were captured by special forces teams that seemed to appear inside secure facilities without warning. 1 week later, representatives from 14 Council species met with the Earth delegation aboard the new human flagship. Taeho's people were among the first to break with the old Council. "We do not seek your destruction," Ji-won told them, now speaking as Earth's military governor. "But we will not be controlled or limited. The new Council will recognize all species as true equals, or it will not exist at all." The terms were simple: complete dismantling of the hardline factions that had pushed for human containment, open sharing of all technologies, and a reformed council where no species could dominate decision-making. 1 month after Ha-Un's death, a new Galactic Council charter was signed. In the rebuilt council chambers, a memorial was unveiled. It showed a simple hologram of Ha-Un, surrounded by the mathematical equations she had been studying. Taiho stood beside Ji-won at the ceremony. "Many still don't understand how humans advanced so quickly," he said quietly. "We've always been good at adapting," Ji-won replied, "and we've always responded to threats with innovation. Your council saw our capacity for violence in our history, but missed the lesson. We are most dangerous when protecting what we love." The hologram shifted, showing Ha-Un's smile as she worked on a complex equation. Beneath it, words in every council language appeared. Ha-Un Kim, child of Earth. Remember why we must be better. Ji-won placed her hand on the memorial base. "This isn't the peace I wanted," she whispered to her daughter's image, "but it's the peace you helped create." As delegates from 27 worlds filed past the memorial, many paused to look at the human child whose death had changed the galaxy. They had feared humanity's potential for violence. Now they understood its capacity for both ruthless efficiency and merciful restraint. In the stars beyond, human ships patrolled alongside vessels from other worlds, not as subjects or servants, but as equals in a new galactic order built from the ashes of a terrible mistake.